Jessica is from Norway, and she is a trade unionist, a leftist and a feminist. Moved to Oslo from London 9 years ago and is part of WDI Norway. And Jessica Fenn, is going to explain why she signed the Declaration on Women's Sex-Based Rights. So thank you so much for coming, Jessica, and over to you.
Thanks for having me. I'm actually originally from London and I live in Norway. I think just before I start, I'm going to do a bit of the important stuff about the Declaration, and then I'm going to tell a sort of personal story about why this issue affects me so much. So there's some personal stuff which I was a bit nervous about, but I think it's really important. The sticker was we've also got in Oslo, so that was really fun. And just using our voices, I've been interviewed, I've been reported in my job twice. I've been interviewed by lawyers, and part of my job is I work for a trade union, and part of my job is to promote equality in the workplace, and that includes now LGBTQI plus. And it seems to be so limited to one way of thinking and the assumption that everybody agrees with gender ideology. There's no space for any other voice. So it really does affect us all, fear of losing your job, fear of not being able to do your job properly. So and I've just seen a comment about being in trade unions, and that is quite shocking. So why did I sign the Declaration? I mean, to protect the rights of women and girls, that my mum, my aunties, my grandma, and all the women before us have fought so hard to put in place in the beginning. This feels like, we're taking a stand to stop them being reversed. To give women and girls the right to live free from fear, from violence, from sexual violence, to have the opportunity to earn your own money, to be self-sufficient, to go to work, to get an education. These are all the basic things that, my grandma couldn't do, that women still around the world cannot do. It doesn't feel extreme, and it doesn't feel outrageous to say that, women and men are different, but actually doesn't mean that we should be second-class citizens. And it's because of the biological fact that women can grow and have babies that society's decided that that should be our main focus in life, our main responsibility, and has given men the opportunity to be the dominant sex. So I feel like the Declaration in itself is an attempt to balance that imbalance that is there, and to right the wrong that is sexism throughout the world, which is far too prevalent. I live in Norway, and it's relatively safe compared to where I grew up in East London, and I know that there's women in lots of countries where it is not safe. I'm not saying it's 100% safe, but even in a safe country like Norway, there is still sexism and the threat of violence for women. I'm a trade unionist, I'm a feminist, I'm a socialist. I'm not a crazy far-right nutter, as I've been accused of being. I'm not a racist. I'm not a Nazi. I grew up in East London. My dad was a dock worker and a political activist. My mum was a psychologist. She was the daughter of an Irish immigrant, the first one in her family to go to university. One of the first people or generations in England to have access to family planning, to university, which was free, and that enabled her to become a professional, a psychologist. So I grew up in a politically active family. I grew up with 4 brothers. I'm right in the middle, 2 younger and 2 older. And I just assumed that we'd be the same. In my family, I was treated the same. I wore my brother's clothes. I cut my hair short. I did exactly what they did. For my 4th birthday, I got given a pickup truck. So it was all normal. But I kind of realised quite early on that society did not expect the same things of me than it did of my brothers. so society expects different things from boys and girls and from men and women. I realised that being a girl, I was expected to be quiet and clean and pretty. And a lot of the toys we were given were to do with cleaning and cooking and being a mother, none of which I was particularly interested in. And boys were dirty, allowed to play outside, fight, be loud, be violent. That was just so they're being boys, that kind of stuff. And I remember, I think I was about 7, maybe 6 or 7, saying to my mum, I want to be a boy. I want, cut all my hair off. I want to be a boy. And I realised what I was really saying is I don't want to be restrained by society's expectations on women, because they're limiting and they're stopping me being who I want to be. And I think that's definitely something that's affected me in this debate, because I think if I was the girl I was then, now, I'd be told that I'm not a girl. And because of my behaviour and the clothes that I wear, I'm not a girl. I was going to say unfortunately, but this is not the reality, because soon enough I got my period, and I started to get sexual attention from grown men and boys, and the fear of violence and sexual violence especially became real. When I was about 8 years old, me and my friend were playing in the street, and we saw a man in a car who we thought was having an epileptic fit. And so we went over to see if we could help, and he wasn't having an epileptic fit, he was masturbating. So that was when I was 8. When I was 10, I was sexually assaulted on the London Underground every day for 4 consecutive days by the same man. And I mean, I was a very small 10-year-old, I was a child. And in the end, we had to get the police involved. So, my brothers did not experience this. This is what women and girls experience. When I was 19, there was a group of 6, me and my friends, and we discussed this. We discussed the reality of sexual violence against women. And all of us, except one person in the room, had experienced some kind of sexual violence by men, some really serious, some by their own family members. And so I've grown up and learned from an early age that it is, as Joe Jackson said, different for girls. Yeah. And it made me acutely aware of what living as a woman, as some people now say, is like. And there's no escape. It didn't matter that I looked like a boy or I behaved like a boy, as I was always being told. That wasn't going to stop me from being targeted by men for sexual violence and all that goes with that. Yeah, and I still had my periods, which were agonizing. Nobody seemed to care about that. I was just told to run around the playground an extra time. The fact that you spend 2 weeks of your life every month in pain and with mad emotional feelings seems to just be, for half the population, expected that we put up with it. And then, of course, I've started to be active in my trade union, and eventually started working for trade unions, and expected that would be a safer place to work. Unfortunately, it's still a very male-dominated area to work in. And for some reason, I suppose the industrial nature of most of the trade unions when they started meant, especially in the UK, that they were dominated by men. Even though I worked in the public sector, which was 70% women, the leader was still a man. And sexism was everywhere, people talking over you, being introduced as this lovely young lady, being patronised, being ignored, being left out of conversations, and so on. So I've worked for trade unions since 2004. I started to sort of realise about this transgender stuff, that men were saying that they were suddenly women, and I didn't really understand. And then I started my menopause, and I thought, this is another thing that women go through that no one seems to care about. There was no information about what was going to happen to me, to my body. I had panic attacks, I had physical symptoms, and everybody just kind of seemed to say, oh, well, you're old now. You might lose your sex drive, you might be in pain, you might have anxiety. That's what happens to women. So I got really involved in researching that. And then I realized that, there were men saying that they were women. And I just at first was really confused. And I suppose, like a lot of us, was kind of sympathetic to the idea because I've been, as a young person in the club scene, about drag queens and gay men, and they're very effeminate. And okay, it's not really, I don't think I really realized the impact of what was happening. And then I remember going out with my cousin in Canal Street in Manchester, which is the big gay club scene, and how sexist it was. And being told by some drag queen that the women's toilets were troughs, and what the fuck was I doing in a club? So it kind of spun a little bit for me. And then obviously I started to dig into it, because when I'm interested in something, I'll research it. Discovered Magdalene Burns, and then discovered all these weird men who were insisting that they were women, which was very strange. But then I realized that they were talking for us. They were taking women's officers' roles and taking prizes for being the best woman and speaking on our behalf. I mean, now there's men who say that they're pregnant and have periods and have fetishes about tampons. I mean, it's just so bizarre. But I realized then that there was a wider impact. It's not just how we feel, but men were becoming spokespeople for women. And so I realized that this is actually an important issue. And like I said in the beginning, all the rights that women have fought for along the way are in danger of being reversed. And then, so I started asking questions and trying to discuss it with people. And as I said, I come from a political left-wing family. I thought it would be fine, until I was told I'm a transphobe, I'm basically a racist. And I've been shunned by some family members for years. One of my family members, a man, says that he's now a lesbian, and I'm expected to agree with that, which I don't, because it's not true. But the sort of, like Fistel talked about it, the silence was just deafening. The fact that I couldn't have a debate about this, I could discuss any other political issue apart from this, was just, I mean, it just left me really, really confused. And then we're asked to celebrate men dressing up as women and how gorgeous they are. And I just felt like when I was at school, we had a campaign so that we could wear trousers, because in England we have to wear a uniform to school, and we had to wear a skirt, which in the middle of winter is cold. And also I felt left us a target, as I said, for sexual harassment, which we won. So we were able to wear trousers. And I know that 100 years ago, women fought for the right to wear trousers. Nobody gave us a prize for being the best man. Like, we've done the work. Okay, boys, if you want to wear a skirt, you do the work. That's your campaign. Don't expect me to fight it for you or to say that you're a woman. So I got more and more kind of angry, really. And then I found all these wonderful women who also agreed with me. And like we said right at the beginning, it's so important, because I then moved to Norway, and I thought most people in England probably feel like this, that Norway's the most equal place in the world. Everybody gets on, there's no sexism, etc. But I found out that it's even worse, because in Norway, you can change your sex online. So you just go online, you type in that you want to change your sex, you get a new national insurance number, and you're legally the opposite sex. And there was a case that happened quite early on when I arrived. There was a woman in a gym getting dressed, and a naked man with his penis out. So she told him to leave the women's changing rooms, and he said, no, I'm a woman. So she went upstairs and spoke to the staff in the gym, And they came downstairs and said, you have to leave because you're a man. And he took out his passport and he said, I'm not a man, I'm a woman. So legally in Norway, he is a woman. That man then took the woman who reported him to court for discrimination and hate crime. The judge in that case was kind of sensible, but also annoyingly didn't make a decision and said, for all intents and purposes, you look like a man, so you can understand her genuine mistake. But he didn't say, you're not a woman. So then I got a bit scared, actually, because it felt a bit like Handmaid's Tale. Like there's all these men, and then I realised how angry they are as well. Big strapping men, like Fissel was saying, with their really aggressive language and stickers. And we had stickers put over our stickers that say "Kill TERFs" and really graphic pictures of women getting stabbed, you know. And then I found the Women's Declaration International and Christina Ellingson and Tonya Yevion and a bunch of other just amazing, brave, strong women. And I thought, right, yeah, this is it, you know, this is where I am. So I got active with them. Christina lost her job. Tonya is a singer-songwriter as well, Fissel, and she's written a song, and the chorus is "We are women with vaginas, and we're tough and we're strong, blah, blah, blah." She got banned from singing that song. So I was just like, what? We're not allowed to say we're women with vaginas. So I thought, yeah, I'm on their team. And also I looked at the declaration and I just thought, like, this is not extreme. I don't understand why this is controversial. But the Women's Declaration International in Norway is the only feminist organisation that supports sex-based rights. Every single, even the most radical of the feminist groups in Norway have allowed trans women into them. The 8th of March committee, so this is the group that organises International Women's Day demonstration and gathering, changed their rules so that anyone identifying as a woman can vote. We had a meeting during COVID where we put forward some motions, and then during the break, loads of people put "Kill TERFs" and transphobe flags as their backgrounds. I took photos of them and reported them and was told that I'd started the fight, basically. And there were just loads of men there. Christine later told me that they're pimps, some of them, because they want to change the law in Norway. It's illegal to buy sex in Norway. It's legal to sell sex. So in an attempt to protect women who find themselves in that situation, and this is a group of men who want to change the law so that it is legal to buy sex, so to protect men who buy sex. I mean, this is the kind of people. But yeah, WDI is the only group in Norway who believes that women are women and will fight for us. So that's basically it. I think WDI is fantastic, and I'm really happy that I've met you all. And coming to some of these question times is brilliant. I love reading all the comments. Yeah, I mean, the last thing that happened is somebody reported me to my job and said that I was, hateful, bigot, a racist, a Nazi, because of things I'd liked on Facebook. So I was interviewed for 2.5 hours, and they asked me questions like, do you think men can give birth? Do you think a lesbian can have a penis? And I just said, do you think a lesbian can have a penis? Yeah, so it's absolutely insane. And they are trying to scare us, and it is scary, you know. I don't want to lose my job. I need to live, I need to eat and pay my rent, you know. So it is scary, but every time I come on Feminist Question Time or go to a conference or meet other women, I feel really encouraged. And I hope that I encourage some other women as well. Let's keep it up.